Welcome mga kababayan. This is Attorney Fred Bison and this is The Agenda.
Ano ba talaga ang naging issue rito?
Implement contractualization here is really absurd and ridiculous already.
At ibang pananaw, isa ang agenda.
This is Attorney Fred Bison and this is The Agenda.
Good morning to our viewers and to our guests for today's episode of The Agenda at the Club. Before we start this week's episode, may we request for a moment of silence to pray for our kababayan who are presently having a crisis because of the typhoon that is happening right now in the Philippines. Let us offer a moment of silence for prayer. Amen. So, good morning to all our viewers. The Agenda at the Club is a weekly program. It is a platform for policymakers to discuss critical issues that are happening to our country today. This week, we have Senator Gregorio Honasan, who will serve as our resource person. Before we discuss the platform or the issues that we will be asking from our resource person, we would like to thank the organizers, Impact Publishing, and EFG Consultancy for the program. Our guest today needs no further introduction. Napakahaba ng kanyang accomplishments. However, I would like to introduce our resource person from the personal experience and history that has happened for the past few decades. Senator Gregorio Honasan. Senator Gregorio Honasan is born in the year of the rat, 1948. The year of the rat are typically mga intelligent people, sociable people, mga innovative people. So over the past few decades, this is the personality that has been seen by the public and by the media. He is accelerated when he was in San Beda because of academic accomplishments. And he is a Bosconian, a fellow Bosconian. As a young adult, he wanted also to have a career, and he wanted to become a priest, and then a doctor. And just like young adults, he was influenced by his father, an educator, to enter the Philippine Military Academy. So our resource person topped the exam of more than 10,000 candidates, and he entered the PMA during 1967. And he became class president and eventually the baron of his class in 1971. After that, he took his MBA in AIM and also finished with Distinguished Thesis Award. Also, during that year, I think in 1985, he was awarded by the JCs as one of the 10 outstanding young men in the Philippines. So, sometime during the middle of the 80s, he was one of the leaders of a group of young soldiers called the Reformed Armed Forces of the Philippines, of RAM. We will discuss later about his involvement sa RAM and his ideologies. And he ran for Senate in 1995. And he was the first senator that ran as independent and won. And he has served in the Senate for more than 2 decades, 21 years. So later, we will be discussing his legislations and what made him run again for this year. He has mentioned that there are some unfinished business, so let us discuss with our resource person kung ano ang mga unfinished business ni Senator Honasan. So with this as an introduction, he is an inspiration to Gen X and probably Gen Y, because we experienced the legislation that he did, and it benefited our generation and this generation. So we'll hear from that later. So for now, that is Senator Gregorio Honasan, our resource person for today. So may we request Senator Honasan for his opening remarks before we proceed to the
Thank you very much, Dr. Paul. We miss Attorney Fred, and thank you to our friends for giving me this opportunity. As I was listening to your introduction, I was reminded of the advice given by Merlin the magician to the young King Arthur. Sabi niya, Arthur, forget the past, redefine yourself in the present, and maybe tomorrow you will lead. So he became King Arthur of the Knights of the Round Table. So I will say this at the start of this engagement, and I will also say this at the end. Let us continue as a people under one flag, one nation, to dream hard, to pray hard, and to work hard together, always together. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Senator. This program is guided by Attorney Fred Mison. He is a Ateneo professor, and he was formerly the the commissioner of the Bureau of Immigration. So I would like to thank our organizers for the opportunity to host today's episode. I am Paul Chua, or people call me Doc Paul, and welcome to today's episode of Tulay. Thank you very much. Okay, so now we will go to the content of our resource speaker, Senator Gringo Honasan. There are bills that he made or she sponsored from 1995 until 2019. And one of the advocacies of our senator is on disaster management and how the local government can properly execute in times of national crisis, such as what is happening right now. So maybe we could hear from our senator what are the his observations on the present disaster risk management policy program of the government. Sir.
Thank you, Dr. Paul. Being a non-lawyer, I will start with the Constitution, which if you compress it into words as briefly as possible, it says that the essence of our fundamental law is to protect life, liberty, and property. But I wanted to borrow from Western tradition, and say that what good is life, liberty, or property if you are not happy? So life, liberty, property, and the pursuit of happiness. It is in this context that I seek another mandate from the Filipino people to go back to where I served for 21 years, the Philippine Senate, a collegial and consensual body. as I was reflecting and praying last night, I realized that all the advocacies will lead or must lead to the protection of life, liberty, property, and the pursuit of happiness, no? Because it is essential for any legislation, any law, whether we amend it, repeal it, or come up with another law, no, to make sure that we address the fundamental needs, the basic needs of our people, which are basically food, clothing, shelter, education, health, and now data, information, the new gold, the new oil. All my advocacies and all the laws I have proposed and helped pass with the majority, are oriented towards this, Dr. Paul. So I will leave that open so that we can go into more detail as you.
For the information of everyone, Secretary Honasan also served as the Secretary of Department of Information and Technology. He was also an author of the legislation of the Freedom of Information Bill, or yung POGI Bill, People's Ownership of Government Information. So si Senator and Secretary Honasan was able to serve as a Secretary of Information, and he was able to promote infrastructure for easy access to data of areas outside of Manila to be able to support the data needs of our kababayan in the provinces. Well, sir, well said, sir. The next question that was compiled from the group, the page, is on one of your advocacies, which is climate change. So, given the numbers of typhoons that are visiting our country every year, and the bill that was passed during your time as senator, can you expound on how we could properly balance climate change with the needs of the Philippines economic development program? So between climate change and economic development, what is happening right now based on your observations?
Dr. Paul, no? We are the principal author of the National Disaster Risk Reduction Management Law. Just from the acronym DRRM, law, major, which is basically nature. Even developed countries have difficulty addressing this. So there are two stages, no? One is preparedness at various levels, no? Kaya meron tayong disaster risk reduction management councils at the lowest possible level. Barangay, municipal, city, provincial, regional, and national, no? So that we can prepare. But since it is an act of nature, we confront it effectively, proactively, warning, and then the challenge comes after, post-disaster, no? To as quickly as we can, restore life back to normalcy. Those who are isolated, those who are hungry, no, cannot wait. No? That's why, as I was sharing with you earlier, no, and our friends, there are two variables we must manage: time and information. Hindi ba pag may typhoon, pag tawag natin, o mayroong mang kuryente, I hope that paradigm has changed. Dapat ang tanong, may contact ba? Connectivity. Para malaman natin kung sino yung walang kuryente, kung sino yung nawas out yung tulay, kung sino yung giba yung kalsada, kung ilang barangay yung isolated, no? Nagugutom ba sila? May pagkain ba? May tubig ba? So that the intervention will be quick and precise. Responsive, no? Responsive and proactive. Where do we begin? We begin with data management. It's actually a mapping situation. No? We must map, no, our harnessing the power of our demographics and technology. We must map our country. Sino ang disaster prone? Sino yung dadaanan ng bagyo? No? Now, This country is so blessed, obviously, that as I explained again earlier, no, we can be the digital, the political, the security, the economic, even the spiritual, the cultural hub, not only of the Pacific area but of the world. No, but God, in His infinite wisdom, maybe decided that with all these blessings, para hindi naman nakakahiya sa ibang bansa, ilalagay ko kayo sa ring of fire. Kasama niyo ron yung Indonesia at yung India. No? At nandun kayo sa EDSA nung typhoon. Pagpasok ng typhoon from the Pacific area, isa kayo sa unang dadaanan. In fact, in the World Risk Index, we are number 1. So, binalanse lang. But I would not dream, Dr. Paul, of looking for another country. That is the context of the NDRRMC law, which we passed a few decades ago, which I think merits some fine-tuning and amendments to respond to the global situation. No? The world is changing, no? Rapidly at that. No? As we speak, it's changing. No? Whether we participate or not, whether we like it or not, it will change without our consent, with or without our consent.
Thank you very much. Sir, what is the present status of the DICT in terms of building areas to process as data centers, and eventually what is the ideal timeline to at least have a connectivity that is needed in order to be efficient in managing crisis using data analytics?
Dr. Paul, my mandate when I assumed in 2019 as Secretary of Department of Information and Communications Technology, no, I was not placed there because I'm techie. I'm just a manager, an ordinary soldier thrust into extraordinary circumstances. So what I did was to put together a team. No, I put together the best and the brightest, technical and legal. What was my mission statement? Sabi sa akin, nung appointing authority, okay, Secretary, you connect government to other governments, domestic and global. Connect government to business for productivity. Connect government to the citizens and everybody to each other. Do this faster and cheaper if not free. Okay. That was my mandate. So in-explain ko ito, lalo na during budget hearings, no? Because if you want to be inclusive about serious development, you go for the farthest, the smallest, and the poorest. Para together. Parang railroad, Dr. Paul, no? You build a railroad, no railroad, except for one in Switzerland, earns by itself. It's the economic activity that happens in both sides of the track. Yung terminal, yung mall, di ba? Ilalapit mo ng konti sa center of commerce and governance, no? So you go for the farthest, the smallest, and the poorest. Inclusive growth, whole of nation approach. When I explained this, I realized, and not to do this in a negative way, no, that government itself needs to upgrade its understanding and appreciation for information and communications technology-driven growth and development. Okay yung infrastructure, no? Infrastructure, tulay, kalsada, ports, no? And by the way, we are an archipelago, di ba? Pero kailangan iangkas natin dyan yung infrastructure. Towers, cables, and now satellite. Okay. That should be the approach to development. And we will be doing this faster, proactively, and of course, with a serious effort to strengthen our baseline data management efforts, no? I think we're back in the game.
Thank you very much for that, sir. And thank you for your service as Secretary of the ICT. The next question that we have right now is food security. One of your advocacies is food security. What is your observation of the present state of our food security program, from local produce to smuggling to having self-reliance in feeding our people? This is a problem for several decades already, We claim to be an agricultural country, yet there are circumstances that are happening right now beyond our control, but it is important to have a food security program. And what are your thoughts on this, Mr. Secretary?
Dr. Paul, there are fundamental issues to be resolved. No? You're not talking only about rice, no? Onions, other agricultural products. If we cannot, let's go down to basics. No? If we cannot feed our own people from our own production of rice, we taught our neighbors how to plant high-quality rice, iri, sa Los Baños. Now, if we cannot feed our own people from our production of rice without smuggling or importing, di ba? Parang may disconnect, di ba? And then we go down to resolving one basic issue. Itong problema natin sa bigas, is it a supply problem or a distribution problem? I have been asking that question from competent people who are engaged not only in the industry, no? So, ang sagot sa akin, this is what I gather so far, it is both. If it is a supply problem, why is rice rotting in the warehouses owned by middlemen? I have nothing against middlemen, no? Free enterprise, no? I was sharing with you an anecdotal, kanina? Di ba yung farmer, pag may disposable income, what do they buy? Di ba ang sagot? A cellphone. A cellphone, technology, ICT-driven, no, gives the farmer access to market information. So yung farm to market, totoo na. Okay? Totoo na yan. So these are basic issues we should resolve. But again, this is such a, we are an agricultural economy. Diba? Kung gusto natin mag-convert from kalabaw to tractor, we need to plant about 50 hectares of rice or corn. Ngayon, may crossroads na naman, Dr. Paul, no? Policy issue. Do we continue to insist on importing rice, if that's the only option left, no? Or do we teach our people that maybe corn, no, which requires less water, can be a viable option? Is that acceptable to our people, di ba? Di ba? Rice and ulam pwede bang, but there are areas in the archipelago that subsist on corn. And I think they are healthier. Okay. So, these are policy issues that must be resolved if we want to seriously and proactively address our food security problem. But I don't think no Filipino should be hungry in this country. Di ba? Sumakay ka ng aeroplano, everything is green, which may lead to another issue you might want to ask later on, no? Land use.
Thank you very much, Senator Gringo, on your inputs on our food security program. Senator Honasan was also part of the legislation of a legislation involving the National Land Use Policy and Planning Program. So I think this is a good time for the Senate to explain, because I think this has not yet been passed into law. So I think this is part of the unfinished business that our senator aims to pursue once he becomes part of our legislature in the next election. And we'll discuss about his other unfinished business later, but maybe we could have the insights of our Senator Honasan on the National Land Use Program, sir. Thank you.
Dr. Paul, no? Land use. I want to reduce it to bite-sized information that we can communicate.
Do we need 1 hour to discuss this?
Hindi naman mga 4 hours lang.
Sige.
Land use.
Napakahabang discussion, sir.
Land is finite, di ba? By the way, hindi ito land use lang, ha? Land and water use. Pag umuulan, baha. Pero kung may containment tayo, yung tubig na galing sa ulan, ma-channel natin to a containment area, ma-filter, you have not two choices, di ba? Pwedeng inumin yon after filtration, and pwedeng agricultural. Yeah, okay. Anyway, but I'm jumping the gun already. No? Land use, finite. Nag-i-increase lang yan a few inches every 1,000 years yata. Di ba? So ano ang area na gusto natin for residential, agricultural, industrial, commercial, government centers, recreational. Para alam natin kung saan mo padadaanin yung kalsada, yung release ng train, na i-connect mo dun sa port. Because we are an archipelago. We are a maritime country. Ganun kasimple yun. Ngayon, we rely on zoning ordinances. Zoning ordinances have some degree of flexibility and autonomy, which is not good for whole of nation and national development. So kailangan natin ng land use policy. But of course, there are interests which I do not want to mention anymore, because these are things that have to be sorted out at the highest level of governance. National priorities. Ano ba unahin natin? Diba? With limit, siyempre, ang susunod is, how many laws have we passed that augment our land use, our intended land use policy, di ba? Are they funded? Are they being implemented? Decades after they were passed, meron na bang IRR? But that's, again, another issue. Balik tayo sa land use. Simple, serious, proactive development planning with our inherent, di ba? Land and water resources na baka maiwasan yung baha. I understand. By the way, I was listening to Secretary Solidum. Kanina, teleradyo kanina. Kinakausap siya at tinatanong kung anong solusyon. Sabi niya, wala pa tayong land use eh. Diba? The level of Metro Manila is lower than sea level. Sa dami nung deep well na inano at saka yung outdated ng mga tubo na inilatag. But I understand things are moving, no? To improve this. These are things that have to be factored in para magkaintindihan tayo. By the way, this transcends administrations. No? Hindi ito pwedeng sabihin na ito ang advocacy ng administration. 6 years lang yan eh. You must be looking forward to 50 years, 100 years beyond our time. Set it in motion, no? Insulate it from partisan political changes. You know why? Ito pinaghalo-halo ko na, baka I'm jumping the gun, no? I've been asking some of our neighbors, no? Officials, no? What demotivates foreign investors and serious development? Our lack of policy predictability. New president, new mayor, new governor, new senator, new medium term. Bakit? Every 3 years we have elections. Titigil muna ako ron, baka umabot tayo ng 4 hours.
Thank you very much, Sir Senator, on your insights on the land use policy. Next question, sir, is you mentioned about unfinished business, no? As a reason why you wanted to run again for the Senate. Can you expound on what policies needs to be addressed? What additional from your more than 2 decades of experience as a senator? What is your observation of the present bills that are being discussed, and what else are needed to be supported for our country to move forward?
We proposed a national peace policy. Hindi yung, we should not self-limit it to stopping the armed conflict. Bakit nagkaroon ng armed conflict? We should go for the root causes. Poverty, social injustice, homelessness, di ba? So hindi lang ito tigil putukan, no? We should go to the root causes. And then, if we are to entice those who engage in the armed struggle to go back to the folds of the law and push for reforms from within, di ba? Mahirap naman yung nasa labas ka, bato ka ng bato, di ba? Pumasok ka naman. In fact, ito, anecdote na naman. Hinanap ako na noon ni the late Chairperson Heidi Yorak of the National Unification Commission. Kasama niya yung kaklase ko, bosong buddy ko, si Colonel Red Kapunan. I was a fugitive then, no? So hinanap ako, nag-meet kami sa safe house. Sabi niya sa akin, Colonel, I'm glad to meet you. I have one message for you from President Fidel Ramos. Sabi niya, you must stop trying to unsuccessfully overthrow the government. Diba? Because every time you fail, the economy suffers. Why don't you come in? Give it another shot. come in, participate, no, in nation building from the inside. Diba? Help us build foundations. So we went into the peace process. But we did something better, Dr. Paul. No? We got in touch with the Secretary of the National Economic Development Authority. No? I will not mention her name. No? Fugitive pa ako, no? We met her. So sabi namin, we wanted to cross-check the offer of President Ramos. Sabi namin, ma'am, did we really, because of the several uprisings, what you call coup d'etats, no? Affect the economy? Alam mo, sagot sa amin, Dr. Paul, gentlemen, you are not that good. Hindi nyo kayang sirain yung economy by yourselves. It was already deteriorating. You just accelerated it. So we mounted another uprising
To support.
to confirm. Diba? But no, we went inside the peace process. So going back to the peace policy, I think it should be comprehensive. It should be institutionalized. It's just not a matter of laying down your firearms. It's making sure that when you get in, your basic needs will also be addressed. No? How do you support your families? Livelihood programs. Because I think, I have not validated the data, no? Maraming nagbalik loob na bumalik sa outside the system because of failure of government to address fundamental issues. So, that's another unfinished business in national peace policy. Last point is, how will we sell our development to foreign investors and local businessmen if we are not only politically, unstable, but we are also engaged in the armed conflict? We have one of the longest running insurgencies, not only in Southeast Asia, but in the world. That's something that has to be addressed.
Thank you very much, Senator Honasan, sir. You mentioned the word reformist and the word reform. Senator Honasan was one of the faces during the 1986 event in EDSA. And I have been watching this when I was still in high school, when Senator Honasan and the Reformed Armed Forces of the Philippines made their move during the EDSA revolution. May we hear from Senator Honasan, what are the learnings that happened during that time, and from that time until today, is there any changes? Have policies been made to address the misconception or ideological changes from then until now? Because Senator Honasan right now, I think this year launched the Reform PH party. So may we hear from a senator about his experiences in the 80s, which I think the youth of today does not understand. I think Generation Z ngayon, they might not understand what happened before. So maybe Senator can expound on this so that our youth can also be aware of what happened before. Senator.
Okay, Dr. Paul, I'm so happy that you asked that question, and you mentioned the magic word, the youth. The basic question that must be asked every time we're at crossroads and we are confronted with the decision is, why? Why was the reform movement born? Why did we do this? Why did we not do that? Diba? Why did we opt for certain options? No? I did not know it then. Now I know a little, older, alam mo naman, older, wiser, no? I realized that we did it for our most precious, strategic, and renewable resource. Our next generation of citizens and leaders, our children. By the way, who are much better than us. Yes. Yeah, you agree? Agree. Okay. The ancient definition of heroism was a little, abstract to me then. The ancient definition of heroism was any man, woman, young or old, who together worked, sacrificed, and built for the next generation were generically heroes. So I think we are a nation of heroes. May romantic notions kami no na, diba? We had plans then, no? Ang mandate naman ng sundalo no, I was a professional soldier, no? What is your job description? Diba? To do what is necessary to preserve law and order, no? And if necessary, to give your life. Diba? So that was the context of the reform movement. Why was it born? Because the president then, the father of our President Marcos now, no, had health issues nobody knew. In the front lines, being a professional soldier, I got exposed to the blank faces of men, women, children, no, who were victims in the crossfire of the armed conflict. During the height of President Marcos' term as president, whenever orders emanated from the commander-in-chief, we went straight for the objective without looking back. Pero napansin namin, Dr. Paul, no, later on, na parang bakit ganito ang utos? Parang it's not a product of complete, timely, no, and accurate information, no. So parang there was a disconnect. So we started looking back. Little did we know that the president had health issues. So the reform movement was born. The reform movement was born not to go against the only commander-in-chief I knew during the time. It was for, ang slogan namin noon, good government. Medyo, alam mo na, romantic, good government, abstract. Ano ba yung good government, di ba? But we carried that battle cry, no, throughout several uprisings, beginning with the 1986 People Power Revolution, where we participated. So that was the context of reform. Now, let's bring it up to speed. We formed a Reform PH party. Yung veterans nung 86, nabuhay pa, katulad ko, no? Then those who were in the Oakwood uprising, no? I'm not talking about the Magdalo, no? These are represented kanina by Assistant Secretary James Layo, who is president of the Reform Party, and the leaderless armed components. So ito yung mga galing sa armed struggle na nagbalik loob. This is the Reform Page Party. We expanded the conversation with decades ago with Chairperson Heidi Yorak. Nagbalik loob kami with the Reform Party to participate in development, nation building from the inside. The last reason for the reform movement is to give our people, the electorate, a wider choice of alternatives. The Reform PH, the same lang naman, pro-people, etc., etc. But there's one distinct characteristic, party discipline. Party discipline. Hindi kami mag-iiwan ng isa't isa. We will stick together whatever happens. No? Yeah.
Thank you very much, Senator Honasan, for that. The next question is your message to our young generation right now. From what you have contributed to the Philippines already for the past more than 4 decades of your service, both as a soldier and both as a statesman, what are your observations? And like you said, it's the youth of today who will be the future of tomorrow. Do you have any messages that you would like the youth to be made aware of? What can you share to our youth so that they can help build a better future for our country?
Dr. Paul, let me begin by filling the blanks for our millennials and Gen XYZ. No? Let me briefly state what my own story is. I was a soldier for 17 years, a rebel for 7 years, a senator for 21 years, and a secretary for 2.5 years. But my biggest achievements, because you cannot give what you do not have, is I think I'm a good husband, I'm a good father, I think I'm a super lolo. Okay? So let me begin with that. No? Learn from our mistakes. Learn from our story, good or bad. Apply it to your own future so that your learning curve will be much better than us. Harness the power of technology, information. Manage time very well. As I was sharing with Pam earlier, no? Sabi ko sa kanya, when people tell me, the young are our future. No, you are not our future. You are your own future. By the time you hit your future, baka we are not be around anymore. all we can do now is show you by example, by living example, no? To be dependable, to be brave, to be honest, to be disciplined, para you can participate together with your generation in serious nation building. And siguro we'll be very proud of you by that time, looking at cheering squad from wherever we are. So this is something that I would like to share with our, by the way, we have 14 million Filipinos scattered in 200 countries. Okay. 14 million. Overqualified teachers and nurses raising the children of world leaders who are beginning to say opo and making mano. No? We have 30% of seafarers are Filipinos. So it is said that if Filipinos in the United Nations and in Washington and our seafarers stop working, mag-i-stop yung commerce, mag-i-stop yung United Nations. That's where we are. And why are we doing this? No? Because we want to Philippinize the global community, which brings us to another issue. Do we convince them to go back home or do we continue? Conquer the world. Conquer the world. Okay? So, that should give you an idea of our potential. Yes, sir. And again, what is our potential? I will say this again and again. If we look at the map, we control the traffic light. We need, no, the superpowers need us more than we need them. Our strength is our geography. Di ba? We can be the digital hub, the political hub, the cultural hub, the economic hub, the security hub, and the spiritual hub, not only of the Pacific area, but of the world. Yung nahihirapan sa ibang bansa, sa atin dapat pumunta kung magkaroon tayo ng sense of priorities. So that is, in capsule, my message to our next generation of citizens and leaders.
Okay, before we entertain questions from the media, may I be allowed to just mention some of the legislation that we are enjoying today, that we enjoyed a few decades ago, and the legislation that was made by our Senator Honasan that is also being enjoyed by our youth today. The law decriminalizing squatters, Republic Act 8368, the Clean Air Act, the Clean Water Act, the Solid Waste Management Act, and firearm and explosives law, and there are a lot that was made by our senator, but most important pa sa iba is yung mga Republic Act 8437, which extends the period effectivity of the rent control law, and yung mga penalties imposed by government that are involved in the National Housing Program, Republic Act 8501. All this we are enjoying because of the legislation that was made by our Senator Gregorio Honasan. So with that, may we entertain now questions from the media? Sir, you are acknowledged.
Nats Alforte from MHC Balita ng Bansa at Tribune Post newspaper. Bago yan, sabi nga po ng mga kabataan na lagi sa akin na-chat, hindi sila nasisiyan sa mga senador ngayon. Hindi naman lahat, pero kaya it's about time na mga tulad ni Senator Honasan ang makabalik sa Senado. Anyway, ito po yung question ko to question po. Regarding po sa COMELEC, yung nangyari din dito sa The Agenda Forum, na magre-register daw po ang lahat ng mga nasa may social media account or pages or else, possibility na ma-turn down sila kung hindi nila i-register bago itong butuhan. Bilang secretary po ng DICT, ano po ang komento niyo po dito, sir?
Kuminsan kasi, bro, Notes, siguro maintindihan ninyo, Dr. Paul, no? Mga kabayan, bakit gano'n na lang ang sinabi ni fraternity brother ko sa Guardian, si Bro Notes, no? Yung COMELEC, seryoso yung mga problemang hinaharap nila. Ang paraan lang para mapabilis ito, magdesisyon tayo. Di ba? Habang maaga. Ito, automated elections tayo. No? Ano ba? Panahon na ba? May time pa ba para i-consider natin yung hybrid? Yung technology kasi pabilisan yan eh. Di ba? Hindi ito kontrolado lahat ng COMELEC. The market is open for intervention from groups with other motives. Pero hindi natin pangungunahan yung COMELEC. Importante, yung nakarehistro, makaboto sa tamang panahon na hindi magahol sa oras at mabilis. Pero ang pinaka-importante talaga rito, bro, no, mga kabayan, Dr. Paul, is to educate the electorate. Hindi ito procedure lang ng whether automated or manual na pagsishade nung kandidatong kursunada mo. Kailangan magmuni-muni tayo na pag-shade mo, ito na ba yung pinili natin dahil sa karanasan, kakayahan, pagmamahal sa bayan, at pag-aalala sa kinabukasan ng ating mga anak. Yan ang batayan. Whether automated or manual, importante yung pagpili natin ng kandidato. Hindi ko sinasabi ito para sa sarili ko, no? In fact, hindi importante yon, no? Importante yung piliin nating mabuti, no? Life, democracy is about choice. Let us educate our people, our electorate, especially our young voters, to choose wisely. Dahil kinabukasan nila ang nakataya rito.
Salamat po.
Thank you very much. Next question, please.
Good morning po, Senator. I'm Nino Aklan from Hataw newspaper. Sir, bilang comebacking senators, may mga comebacking, may re-electionist, ano ang edge ni Senator Honasan para muling iboto at ibalik sa Senado?
Hindi naman ito edge, no? Dahil ayoko namang husgahan yung kalidad ng mga pinili ng tao, no? At saka yung gustong magbalik, no? Ang sinasabi ko lang, 17 years akong sundalo, di ba? 7 taon na rebelde. Tapos 21 years na senador, nagkasama pa nga tayo ron. 2.5 years na secretary. Sa lahat ng larangan na yun, no? Almost 50 years of public service, ang itinaya ko doon, bawat sandali, 24/7, yung buhay ko, yung pamilya ko, yung pangalan ko, yung karir ko. O di, kayo na bahala mamili. Kung sa tingin nyo, itong qualification, sapat na. Kung kapos, di okay lang sa akin. Pero tao ang mamimili. Batay sa kakayahan natin. Hindi yun edge. No? Baka marami diyang dihamak, mas magaling. No? Pero importante rito, pagpili natin ng kandidato, ng iboboto, pinag-isipan nating mabuti. Wag yung bara-bara.
Sir, another thing, marami na kayong batas na naipasa before. Ano pa po yung other legislation na itutulak nyo when you come back to the Senate?
Upo ka lang muna, mga 4 na oras to. No? Land use, national security, freedom of information, Marshall Plan for Mindanao, digitalization pala, Dr. Paul. No? Yung kasi, pag dinigitize natin, nangyayari yan sa area ang bilis. Hindi mo na kailangan ng kable. Di ba? Hindi na physical ito, no? Hindi mo na kailangan na, sa area nangyayari ito. Mas mabilis, so mas mabilis tayong makaresponde para protektahan yung life, liberty, and property. Idadagdag ko, lahat ng batas na naisip ko, ang susi, the way forward, is technology at digitalization.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Nin.
Thank you very much. Next question, please.
Hello, good morning, Senator. I'm George Boyd from Manila Stories, a visual journalist. So my question is about yung nangyayari ngayon sa typhoon disaster ngayon. Since author kayo ng disaster list, ano pong improvements kailangan gawin ngayon and paano dapat mag-respond ang administration? From your point of view.
Kumpletuhin natin yung datos. Ngayon kasi, di ba, 2 portion yan eh. Pagkangarap mo, kalikasan, bagyo. Kahit na yung mga developed countries na mayayaman pa sa atin, talagang nagkakandara pa. Bagyo, lindol, natural. Nature eh. Sabi nga nila, nature is an act of God. So anong pwede natin gawin? 2. One is maghanda. Prepare. Early warning. Saan tayo magfo-focus pag early warning? Doon sa mga nasa dadaanan, nun sa kuna. Kung ang dadaanan, Northern Luzon, o Bicol, nangyayari ngayon, di ba? Then, yun ang i-alerto natin. At ready na tayo mag-responde. Yung second stage is after dumaan yung bagyo. Example lang ito, no? Kailangan bilisan din natin yung intervention para mabilis ang pagbalik sa normal na pamumuhay. Makapasok sa opisina, di ba? Matingnan yung pananim nila. So, kaya tinawag natin na National Disaster Risk Reduction, iwasan yung tama, and management of the post-disaster. Pag nandyan na yung bagyo, wala na tayong magagawa. Handa tayo o hindi, nandyan na, nasa harap natin. So yun ang essence ng DRRM silo na pinasa natin.
Thank you very much, sir. Your
Good morning po, Senator. How are you? Dodi Lacuna.
Hey, Dodi, how are you?
Okay. Really?
Bakit ako lang yung tumatanda, ikaw hindi?
Naharata po sa buhok eh. Ako rin tumatanda. How are you, Senator? Anyway, may tanong ako. Do you think the President needs to be more willful and decisive when it comes to disaster preparedness? And talaga bang may malaking kakulangan ang budget natin with regards also to the devolution of this critical response, in this kinds of emergencies?
Ay, Dodi, ako pananaw ko lang ito. The Philippine presidency is one of the most powerful, if not the most presidency, I'm not talking about the person, among the remaining presidential democracies. At ang pumipili dyan, ibang klase, yung Pilipino, di ba? And the president won by a majority. I'm just laying the premise for that, no? Hindi natin pwedeng pangunahan ang ating Pangulo dahil may mga alam siya na hindi ko alam, na hindi natin alam. Can you imagine the volume of information that is directed towards him, Dodi, no? So, ang proposal ko ganito. Para makapag-decide naman siya ng maayos, no? Kailangan kompleto yung impormasyon, timely, di ba? At saka makatotohanan. Hindi ito unahan, hindi ito marites. Kailangan ang impormasyon na papasok sa ating Pangulo, kailangan talaga makatotohanan. Dahil anuman ang maging desisyon niya, ang epekto, 120 milyong Pilipinos na buhay ang maaapektuhan ng desisyon ng ating pinakamataas na government official. That's my suggestion. Information management. Siguraduhin lang natin na yung desisyon niya magiging tama dahil tama yung information na pumasok.
Thank you very much, Senator. Senator Gringo.
Dodi, thank you.
You're back in the Senate, huh?
Well, I hope with your help.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, sir. Next question.
Hello, good morning po. Good morning, sir. Good morning, Manoy, Senator Honasan. Manoy, bilang Bicolano, dalawa kayong tatakbo eh. Si Manoy Wilbert Lee at saka tayo. Ang tanong ko po, meron na po ba kayong ugnayan o pag-uusap para sa darating na eleksyon?
Alam mo, Manoy, lahat naman ng kandidato, no? Ano man ang pananaw natin tungkol sa kanila, yung kalidad nila, karanasan nila, i-assume na natin, ipagpalagay natin, wag na natin pagdudahan pa na gustong magserbisyo. Lalo na yung mga Bicolano. Ano mga Bicolano, mga Urago niyan, di ba? Okay. Hindi kami nag-uusap, pero sa tingin ko, no? Iba man ang landas na tinatahak namin, papunta doon sa Mayo, election day next year, no? Sa tingin ko, ang magiging resulta nito ay ikabubuti ng bayan. Dahil kung sabihin ko na naman, alam mo, itong kandidatong to medyo, di ba? We should be more clear about what we are for, more than what we are against. Itigil na natin itong ugali natin na wala tayong tiwala sa isa't isa. Although archipelago tayo, isang bandera lang tayo, isang lahi tayo, whether Bisaya ka, Bicolano, Ilocano. Yun naman sana ang gusto nating makita sa mga leader natin. Di ba? Sila ang maglilid sa atin . So ang hiling ko, ang panalangin ko para sa kanila, lead us. Pamunuan nyo kami. Okay lang yan, di ba? Minsan media. Sabi nga, Manoy, no? Dati, dalawang sektor lang nga ang pwedeng magbago ng sistema kung gusto. Yung mga sundalo at yung mga pare. Idadagdag ko. Hindi ko sinasabi ito dahil nasa harap ko kayo, no? Sundalo, pare, at media. especially multimedia, especially with social media. Okay? Kaya pag nagsama-sama yan, sundalo, pare, yung may moral ascendancy, no? At saka media, sa tingin ko, mapapabilis ang pagbabago at pag-improve ng sistema. At wala yung kinalaman sa kalidad ng mga kandidato. Lahat naman siguro ng mga kandidato maganda ang intensyon. Otherwise, ba't sila nagkandidato?
Follow up lang po, Manoy. Sobra pong sinalanta ng bagyong Christine ng ating bayan sa Bicol. Ano po? Ako bilang taga-Albay, kaya masyado akong concern. Gumagawa na rin tayo ng aksyon. Kayo po, ano pong plano nyo sa ngayon?
Bago mo pa tinanong yan, 1 linggo nakakaraan, nung may warning na may darating na bagyo, nagpaabot na tayo ng tulong at panalangin sa tahimik na pamaraan. Kung sa Naga lang, di ba? Yung kandidata para sa mayor doon, hindi ko na babanggitin, baka kalain nag-advertise tayo o kampanya na tayo, di ba? Nandun nakababad sa tubig. Di ba? Kung pumunta pa ako, magbabad sa tubig, baka, di ba? Lalong gumulo. So tahimik na nagpadala tayo ng tulong, hindi natin di-advertise. Wala na yung courtesy of kung sino-sino, di ba? Nagpadala ka ng tulong.
Walang mukha.
Di ba? Hindi naman ganun ang usapan sa pagtulong, di ba? Tumulong ka ng tahimik, di ba? Huwag ka na magantay na kamayang ka pa o bigang ka pa ng trophy o plaque. Di ba? Ganun ang pagtulong. Hindi lang para sa mga Bicolano. Para sa lahat ng kababayan natin na salanta.
Ayan. Salamat, Manoy. Salamat, Sir.
Mabalos.
Thank you po. Mabalos po.
Thank you for your question. And for our last question, you're recognized.
Good morning, Cavalier. Honasan. Good morning po sa Sir Paul Chua. Sir, as a military personnel and somebody who took the helm, as Secretary of Information and Technology, ano po ang masasabi ninyo patungkol sa nangyayari ngayon sa West Philippine Sea? Ito po ba ay threat sa national security natin talaga, sa territorial defense? Or ano po ang masasabi ninyo?
Father, sa
Yes,
atin yan yung West Philippines
Yes,
Sea,
sir.
sa atin yan. May karapatan, di ba, na mangisda yan. Yung mga mangisda natin para pakainin yung kanilang mga mahal sa buhay, yung pamilya.
Yes,
no? Ako, hindi ako nag-aalala dyan I don't think that nation will invade us. Di ba? Sinabi ko kanina kay na Dr. Paul, dahil nandito na sila hindi na sila kailangan lumusob. Pinakita nga yung puwit ng baso, made in... Yeah, okay. So, pero, kung mali ako at lumusob sila, di okay lang. Di bitayin ako. Dahil masyado akong relaxed. Kaya ang sinasabi natin, Father, maganda tayo. Di ba? Unite. Para together tayo. Di ba? Organize. And then mobilize. Sigurado may plano yung gobyerno. Ang sinasabi natin, Father, isama nyo naman kami sa plano. Dahil pag umatras na, kung tuluyan tayo, Air Force natin, Coast Guard, na mga bayani talaga ito. Alam nila ang kakayahan nila, pero sumasagupa. Winawater cannon, mapagtimpi, mapagbigay. Dahil alam nila na pag pinatulan nila, hayaan natin na pumasok dito. Kung seryoso sila. No? Kung pumasok sila rito, dito tayong mga Pilipino. Alam niyo yan, Father, di ba?
Yes, sir.
No, alam niyo yan. Mapagbigay, maawain, ang daling kausapin, ang daling aregluhin. Pero pag ginalit niyo ang Pilipino, bibigyan namin kayo ng problema na hindi pa ninyo natikman sa buong buhay ninyo. Dito namin, lusob kayo dito, kahit na sino kayo, dito namin kayo sa Pasig, sa Iskinita, tutudasin. Hindi yun banta,
Yes, sir.
Sinasabi ko lang, ang karanasan ng Kastila, ng Hapon, ng Amerikano. Okay? So maganda tayo.
Yes, sir.
Para kung ano man naman, kung kaya natin maganda para sa bagyo, para sa lindol, kaya natin magpahanda sa kahit anong sitwasyon. Ganon kagaling, Father, ang Pilipino.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you very much for the questions that was given by our media guest here. As we proceed to close our program today, may we hear a closing message from our resource person, Senator Gregorio Honasan.
Dr. Paul, no, sa ating mga kasamahan sa media, kanina sabi ko, yung una kong hiling, lalo na sa kabataan natin, yun din ang hihilingin ko at ipagdadasal ko sa closing statement. Okay. we must all continue to stay strong, healthy, safe, and truly free. And we can only do that by dreaming hard. Mangarap tayo. Walang masamang mangarap. Kaya lang hindi pwedeng nangangarap lang tayo. Magdasal tayo. Di ba? Quietly, pray, no? Dream hard, pray hard. At para hindi naman nakakahiya sa Panginoon, ano man ang tawag natin sa Kanya, whether God, Lord, or Allah, di ba? Let us continue to work hard. Together. Always together. One people, one nation, one flag. Together as a people. Dream hard, pray hard, and work hard. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So this concludes our program. We'd like to thank our resource person for today, a patriot, a soldier, a statesman, a competent senator who has been in public service for more than 4 decades of his life. So thank you very much, everyone, for this particular episode of The Agenda at the club. On behalf of Attorney Fred Mison and Impact Production and EFG Consultancy, we would like to thank you for your presence today. And we hope you subscribe to our YouTube channel, The Agenda. And thank you for the organizers for inviting me to be part of today's episode. With that, thank you very much and magandang umaga po sa inyong lahat.